Things are working out better than I'd hoped today. As I mentioned in the last Tedium Unlimited, I had put the bed together with the exposed side of the side pieces showing forwards, despite the fact that I had spent an inordinate amount of time making sure that I had things right in my head when I was putting it together. I'm usually very careful with those things. I'll make no excuses for missing the measurement of the bed. It didn't occur to me that the headboard would be wider than the bed itself. But that's another story. By the way, is that fan distracting you back there? I'm not putting my finger... Oh, putting my finger in the fan. Look at that. Isn't it? That's just there for visual interest because this is a sort of dull white background. Anyway, neither here nor there. So this morning I have been hunting all over for my leather mallet. And because, like I said, I have to knock the top off to take the sides off. And I thought a leather mallet would be great because it'd be nice and soft on the wood. And I know what you're asking. No, you're not really asking this, but I'm going to pretend like you're asking this. Why do you have a leather mallet? And the answer is, why do I have a leather mallet? Because it was to break in my cricket bat. And so then the next question that's going to be followed on with that is, why do you, an American, have a cricket bat? And the answer is I like cricket, and I have a cricket bat. And that's why. And although there's scant little chance to play cricket, I do occasionally take the kids out and teach them to knock the ball around a little bit. Get out there and... no, I know. I was kidding with that. It's, downstroke and thing. Anyhow. But I couldn't find it, so I had to go with a plastic mallet, which I used for flooring or something like that. And I came in here and I thought, well, I got to make room. So I took the box, which still had a couple of pieces left in it because I haven't quite finished it because I didn't put the back on. And the reason I didn't put the back on was because I didn't want to interfere with my cutting of the electrical box. And when I took the box out, I found two of these. And what these are is they are the pieces that go in the front of that headboard and hide those unfinished sides, because they are not on wrong. They are on absolutely correctly. But the instructions, which I thought the last instruction would be to put the back on, it is not. The last instruction is to put these front pieces on, which is on the last page of the instructions. And so I just assumed, we know what happens there, that the back was the last piece, but it was not. There are two more pieces. And so this is, in fact, completely done correctly. And I couldn't be happier, at least about this particular situation. So now I just have to finish that off and put the electrical boxes in today. And that's what I will be working on. So I'm essentially making a sort of an extension box for a wall outlet. So I'm making an extension cord with a plug at the end. And I'm using cut-in boxes for, generally for old work. So you would cut a hole into the drywall and mount the box and seal it up. So that will work in the bed frame quite nicely. Typically a box like that has a friction clip in it, so that when you shove the Romex into it, it's held in place by the friction. And since it's behind a wall, no one's tugging on it. But because this might not be in that situation, could get tugged on, I'm going to put stress release grommets in it. So I have to modify the back of the junction box, and so that's what I'm going to do now. I've used a Dremel to put a small hole in it, and I'm going to use a hole saw to cut the right size hole, so then I can put the stress relief unit on it. And that's what the finished product looks like. See, these are the friction feeds that would normally, you'd pop those open, put the cable through, and then they would close back up and kind of hold it in place securely enough. But since it's not in a wall, I've put this grommet in, and you'll put the wire through there and then cinch these down, and that will provide that will provide stress release on the cable. And it's a non-conductive box, so apart from this, which will be conductive, but that's what would be in a metal box, so everything should be fine, and it's worked pretty well. With any luck and a bit of good measuring and using a square and all, this should be the right size for the cut-in box. So I'm going to try to cut it in. As with everything DIY, it's more work and more frustration than you expect. However, I have the first cut-in box in place. It's where I wanted it, and it looks pretty good. And there it is, the first one in place, and it doesn't look too bad. Because of the nature of the box and the shape of that custom plate, it's not entirely flush, but that's not that big of a deal. I think it'll work. I've marked out the other one, and it's late, and I wasn't going to cut it, and I started to cut it, and I'm having the same problem I did with the first one, and that's the tool I'm using, because of the tight space I'm having to use the Dremel, is going a little wide and not as straight as I'd like. So I think tomorrow I'm going to stop by and pick up a Dremel, specifically a wood cutting wheel, and possibly the flex extender, so that I can bend the Dremel motion to fit in that tight spot a little bit better, and finish cutting that box off better than on this other one. The first one I measured out and is very square, and then cut it in place. Then you put the box in, and it's just a little tolerance, and it torques a little bit, and so does the plug when you put it in, and so it's a little canted off. I don't care. I really don't care. I could probably pull the screws loose and make a jig and run it through there and square it out, but I don't care. It's just that simple. I really don't care. Anyway, so that's going to be it for this one. I've got a lot of stuff to do tomorrow evening after work, so apart from maybe cutting that hole out I did, I'm going to get any more done on this. So until next time, remember, like, comment, subscribe.